Resident Evil 5.
For most of my life, Resident Evil was a franchise I respected from a distance but never fully stepped into. I admired its cultural impact, its grotesque creature designs, and its status as a pillar of gaming history. But actually playing it was another story. My relationship with horror has always leaned towards atmosphere and narrative. I love games that invite me to sit inside a curated sense of dread. The existential suffocation of Soma, where the horror is a philosophical nightmare. The trigger-happy paranoia of Doom 3 Phobos, a mod you guys need to check out by the way. The looping domestic decay of PT, and most controversially, the grimy domestic isolation of Silent Hill for the Room. These games don't ask me to optimize a backpack, they ask me to endure its nightmare. Traditional Resident Evil never clicked for me because its fear felt clerical. The tension wasn't just in the darkness, it was in the mathematics of it all. Inventory limits, ammo anxiety, the backtracking through corridors you've already cleared just to find a lever for a door you saw 3 hours ago. To me, this wasn't just scary, it just felt like way too much work. This is the same reason I've historically bounced off of Souls-like, the combination of high stakes punishment, navigational uncertainty, and the lack of clear direction, or what I believe the technical definition is, a lobotomy marker, locks my brain into a state of paralysis. I didn't want to play Resident Evil. I felt like I was being scheduled for a mandatory shift in a haunted warehouse. The only reason I finally set foot in the sun-drenched nightmare of Kijuju was a friend. He was a series veteran who had played every mainline entry except for the divisive era 5 and 6. We decided to bridge that gap together. But from the first cutscene, our experience gap was a chasm. He understood the grammar of the series. He knew how to kite enemies, how to conserve handgun bullets for headshots, and how to read the environmental cues that scream boss fight incoming. I, on the other hand, was functionally illiterate. For the first 2 chapters, I wasn't an equal partner. I was a liability being dragged through a war zone. I got lost in the simplest ways. I panicked every time I heard a chainsaw rev. He told me where to go, what to shoot, and when to reload. I wasn't playing a game, I was surviving the experience of him dragging me through one. Then, something miraculous happened. The game tried to be Resident Evil again, and it failed. Chapter 4 introduces a traditional puzzle involving sundial lasers. It's the exact kind of environmental obstacle that defined the earlier games. My pro friend stalled. 30 seconds of silence turned into a minute. I stepped in, I saw the pattern, and solved it almost immediately. He goes, "Wow, we got a genius over here." It was a small moment, but it shifted the tectonic plates of our dynamic. For the first time, I wasn't just baggage, I was a contributor. This chaotic energy extended into the game's infamous QuickTime events. We were blindsided by a prompt so sudden we had to watch the same cutscene 5 times just to survive it. This extends to the infamous boulder punch as well. We realized that RE5 wasn't a pristine survival horror masterpiece. It was messy, arcade-like, and frequently tripped over its own feet. Prior to reaching the Ricardo Irving boss fight, I was still bracing for the clerical horror to return. The setup was peak Resident Evil spectacle, a cinematic boat fight against a bio-organic monstrosity, swelling orchestral music, and high narrative stakes. Then the engine broke. Irving's character model failed to load correctly. Instead of a terrifying sea monster, we were staring into a pair of disembodied eyeballs and a wig of hair suspended in midair. Right on cue, his scripted voice boomed. "You're making me look bad." The irony was too perfect. That single moment shattered the psychological hold the game had on me. The prestige horror illusion collapsed. We weren't playing an entry into a sacred and revered franchise. We were playing a loud, janky, slightly broken action game. Once I stopped respecting the game, I started loving it. Well, I went from forcing myself through sessions to being the one asking him when you hopping on tonight. This is where RE5 fundamentally diverges from the horror of Soma or PT. In Soma, the fear is internal and psychological. You can't fight back, so the tension sinks inward, creating a lingering existential rot. RE5 is the complete opposite. The fear is spatial. When a chainsaw Majini appears, I don't feel existential dread. I think in numbers. He takes more bullets. I need more distance. I need better coordination. The tension isn't about helplessness. It's about being overwhelmed. When you add co-op, the horror moves out of the screen and into the Discord call. When I mess up in Soma, I sit quietly in fear. When I mess up in RE5, I'm screaming into my headset for my friend to get a Majini off my back. Panic becomes communication, stress becomes noise, and eventually that noise becomes laughter. In this way, Resident Evil 5 is the slasher movie of the franchise personified. In a game like Silent Hill, you are the lone protagonist in a slow burn psychological thriller, where the fear is a cold shiver down your spine. But in RE5, by playing with your friend, you aren't just watching a girl scream in the movie, you are the girl screaming, and your friend is the one frantically trying to find the door key. It's the only horror game I played where the scare doesn't end in sitting in silence, but in a panicked shout followed by some relief of survival. Midway through the playthrough, my computer crashed and my save was wiped. I had been playing as Chris Redfield because like anyone else, I wanted to be the main character, the face of the franchise. After the reset, I ended up Sheva Olimar for the remainder of the game. Initially, I viewed this as a downgrade. Then I realized something honest. I was always Sheva. Our inventory dynamic proved it. My friend was unlocking weapons and upgrades before I even understood the menu. He asked me to buy an RPG for a boss, and I'd respond genuinely confused. I don't see it in the shop. We traded items constantly. I handed over ammo. He handed me the healing items. I became the medic, the mule, and the support. The game wasn't punishing my lack of resource management. It was giving me a role that fit my skill set. Losing Chris wasn't a loss of status. It was a narrative alignment. I was the newcomer, and Sheva was my avatar. The fight against Uroboros and Mkono cemented our partnership. We were out of ammo. Completely. I was clicking my gun uselessly while shouting that I had nothing left. He said, I only got an RPG and we probably got to restart. I grabbed the flamethrower and played bait, burning the boss just long enough to expose its core. When it opened, I screamed. He fired. The explosion filled the screen. We won by the skin of our teeth. That wasn't just survival horror. It was an action movie climax born out of a shared incompetence. It felt better than any perfect run could have. Then Chapter 5 came. The moment purists claimed that Resident Evil lost its soul. Enemies take cover. They use AK-47s and Gatling guns. It becomes a cover shooter. For my friend, this is where the fatigue set in. For me, it was a sigh of relief. I said, let's go. It's Call of Duty now. Everything clicked. I didn't need to optimize the spreadsheet. I needed muzzle flashes and angles. I treated it like Metal Gear Solid 4. I suppressed the enemy while my friend handled the strategy. We finally synced. This is why RE5 was misunderstood. It wasn't trying to be Resident Evil 1. It was trying to be a high-octane, collaborative thriller, and it succeeded for an audience that preferred partnership over isolation. Now, I want to preface this next part, my love for Silent Hill 4, with a disclaimer. Yes, I love Silent Hill 4. It's the black sheep of the franchise, maligned for its deviations, its clunky escort mechanics, and its departure from the fog-heavy streets of the previous games. RE5 occupies that same space. Silent Hill 4 catered to me, narratively, through its surreal domestic entrapment. RE5 catered to me, mechanically, through its chaotic partnership. Both games were punished for daring to deviate from the sacred, established formulas. However, the tide seems to be turning for the maligned classics. With the massive success of the Silent Hill 2 remake, it's been heartening to see that Bloober Team has been tucking away quite a few Silent Hill 4 references within the world. From the South Ashfield Heights signs to specific notes that hint at the cult of Walter Sullivan. For fans like me, these aren't just Easter eggs, they feel like a temperature check. It suggests that Konami recognizes the cult following The Room has garnered over the years, and it fuels hope that Silent Hill 4 could finally receive its own modern remake. There's poetic symmetry here. Just as Silent Hill fans are looking at the Silent Hill 2 remake as a sign of life for The Room, Resident Evil fans are looking at the RE4 remake as the blueprint for RE5. Both series share a director legacy, Yasuhiro Anpo, who helmed both the original RE5 and the RE4 remake. He has the unique opportunity to perform Anpo's revenge. He has the chance to take the most misunderstood action-heavy entry and prove that its core ideas, the spatial pressure, the sun-drenched dread, and the co-op tension were always brilliant. They just need the modern refinement that current technology allows. Resident Evil 5 did not fail at being horror. It redefined where the horror lives. It proved that fear doesn't have to be lonely, that tension doesn't require silence. I went into this expecting to endure a chore. I came out excited to play Resident Evil 6 with my friend. A game that looks like Chapter 5 turned up to 11. Sliding, diving, and chaos. Call of Duty, Resident Evil. RE5 taught me that this series doesn't have to be a haunted spreadsheet. Sometimes it could just be a loud, messy, hilarious war zone. And that's why it still matters.